everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of our I've Decided podcast. I'm Kim Martin, founder of I've Decided and host of your show today. So my question that I would like to pose to you is, how strong is your sense of justice? Now, this word, we have been talking about it all week in our I've Decided community. It is our weekly winning word, and there is a lot to be said about the word justice. Like, it can go in so many different ways, but ultimately, we have concluded that it is an amazing word. It is a necessary word. It is a word that is derived from love, and it is the cornerstone for peace. So ultimately, if you are going to be your best self, if you are going to achieve your goals and dreams, you need to have a strong sense of justice. So that's what our podcast is all about today. We are going to go through 4 ways that you can cultivate a stronger sense of justice. And I couldn't think of a better guest than one of our Launch My Success members and a guy who loves justice, and you're going to find out why, Mr. Jason Shimmin. Hi, Jason.
Nice to see you today and be on the show. Thank you for
having
me.
I'm so excited that you're here, and so thankful that you're a part of our community. Just an awesome fit. And I've been talking to you about this word coming up because some of you may or may not know, but all of our weekly winning words are laid out for the year. They're already set. So I think it was probably about a month or so ago, I said, Jason, I got the word justice coming up, and I need you to be on the podcast because you are going to be the perfect person. So let me tell you just a little bit about Jason, and then we're going to dive in and talk about this word a little bit. So Jason is a vet, by the way. He is an Army infantry veteran.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for your service, Jason.
It was an honor.
That is amazing. And it's an interesting story because he didn't join the Army until later in life, right after 9/11. So very interesting. Also, Jason owns Shimmin Tactical Solutions. So you teach gun safety and teach people how to shoot and help them to get their concealed carry license. And a third thing, and you'll understand completely why he's perfect for this, is you do some security work. So you help maintain order by being a security guard and taking care of that on the side. So is he a perfect person for the word justice, or what?
I feel like I was made to help instill justice and bring justice to people. So
yeah. So why don't we I'd love to hear your take on this word. We've been talking about it this week. So what does justice mean to you, and how do you feel your sense of justice is? So
I would say justice to me, initially, you think of bringing someone to justice or holding someone accountable for when they do something wrong or something bad. But after doing more research on the word, when you mentioned it a month ago, it really does have a positive definition and has several definitions, but it makes more sense to read the definition and understand the meaning of the word. And I really liked what I learned from studying it. Yes. And your article was perfect. So.
Well, the definition of justice is the quality of being just and fair, or moral rightness. And we talked about this at our weekly live group coaching session, that all humans really are born with a moral conduct. This is why we love superheroes. You know, we love the person who goes after the bad guy. We know that justice needs to be served in order to keep the peace. And you think about, a toddler who's like crying because they're not getting what they want, or they feel like they're not being treated fair. Now, they might want something that they don't need because they're only 3, but they react out of a sense of, you're not serving them justice. You're not giving them what they desire, and that's unfair, so to speak. So you can see that as early as 2 and 3 years old, that we obviously have a sense of justice. And you can also see it after events like 9/11.
Yes. Yeah. You want I would say with the moral compass, like what you said, or that innate feeling we're born with, you do want things to be not necessarily fair, because a lot of times life isn't fair, but fair in many situations, whether you're a young kid, and we talked about this yesterday too. Whether you're a student, everyone should have the same opportunity or equal opportunity to learn in a classroom. Nothing else should matter. Race shouldn't matter. Your size, none of that should matter. You're there to learn. And so one of the reasons I did join the military was after 9/11, and I'd always had a respect for people in service, many different branches. I was Army, so now it's my duty to make fun of the other 3 branches of service, 4 if you count the Coast Guard. So, but I do that respectfully and with good humor. Most of my friends we give it to each other all the time.
Right.
But
you all do that to each other,
yes,
no
ma'am.
matter.
Yes, ma'am. With respect.
Right.
At least on my end, I try to be respectful, and they know that I'm kidding. But I joined the service to not only bring justice to those who attacked our country. I wouldn't say I joined necessarily for revenge, but I also joined to provide safety. I wanted my kids to grow up in a life and in a world like I grew up. I went to a Christian grade school. I never had to think about going to school and worrying that my school was going to get blown up or attacked. In many other countries in the world, they don't have that opportunity.
Right.
They send their kids to school every day and they don't know if the school is going to get bombed and one thing that a lot of times people don't think about is if we're fighting or hunting terrorists or evil in the world, no matter how you label it, we're better to be hunting them on the other side of the world than waiting until they come on our land.
Right.
And they're amongst us and in our schools and in our society. So those were the reasons I joined. I joined knowing that I would go to Iraq or Afghanistan, mainly Iraq when I joined. I joined in 2005. And so I knew.
Yeah. And I just think back, I to 9/11, and you guys listening, tuning in, you can think back yourself and how the whole nation came together and we wanted that justice, right? We knew
Yes.
that there were bad guys that did something really evil and to innocent people. And so there is, justice, is, if you think about when you get excited for someone who's worked hard or deserves an award and you're like, they justly won that award, and you just can be so excited for them. That's justice, right? Or you can have justice in saying they did something that they need to be held accountable for,
right?
And they don't they deserve the consequences of their actions or whatever the law says is required.
And people understood that, and that was one of the things, like you said, after 9/11, a lot of people were more friendly, almost nationwide. They were more patriotic. Flags were flown everywhere. And it seemed like neighbors got along better. People just were nicer to each other. I think because of that fundamental need to have justice, but also people were trying to heal or repair from that hurt from 9/11. And that's another word that we talk about with justice, is that if justice is maintained, that balance, there is repair and restoration.
Yes.
After a hurt or after an injury. And I think I was shocked when I joined at how many people were supportive. And even now, everybody that knows me, they thank me for my service. I try to do the same thing when I see older vets, because I realize some conflicts before mine, especially the Vietnam era, they didn't have that understanding.
Right.
But I think a lot of that was culture just didn't understand what was going on in that conflict. And they didn't understand it to support it. Where with ours, hunting bad people or terrorists, that's a pretty easy understood plan.
Right.
So,
yeah. And so I think it's just important to lay the foundation of what we believe, and where our hearts went with the word is justice is all about treating others well. So it's saying if and like you said, it's about that retribution. If we've done something wrong, we need retribution for that. We need to make amends. We need to make it right so that we can be restored back to a good place. And it's with our own selves. It's with other people.
I think oftentimes we feel that way too. I know when I hurt somebody's feelings, whether they're a friend or not, you have that feeling of guilt and you do want to make amends. Whether it's just an apology and a hand on the shoulder, or you shake their hand, or maybe it's something you want to take somebody, or you want to do a gift to show or express your remorse or how you're trying to make amends. So, and in some cases where there's criminal activity or something evil happens or a lot of malice, those people, it takes a certain type of person or people to go after them, to hold them to justice or hold them accountable. And not only do you have those type of people, like when I joined the Army and I met amazing people in my time in service, but all the support that was given to them, it's almost like you need the community behind you.
Yes.
Because again, they're going for that balance and that justice and the repair. So
and you just think of the word safe, right? Like you just think that, justice keeps me safe. Justice keeps you safe. Justice should keep everyone safe. And referring back to Jackie is one of our success partners, and she's a retired educator. And she was talking about in her classroom, she would, there was no bullying. She had zero tolerance for it. And she said, I was determined that my kids would feel safe and that they could trust me. And it really, I just got chills just saying that, because you really think about it. And think about the bully. Let's look at it from the bully's point of view. Truly, and we'll say most, because there's exceptions to the rule. There is evil, right? But generally, bullying comes from a place of lack of confidence. It comes from probably a place where a kid it's feeling unloved or insecure. They don't have a support system at home. They're not getting any attention. And so they're deprived. And so really deprivation and a sadness almost comes from a little kid that's trying to be mean to another kid. And ultimately, that's not what they want to do. They don't really want to do it, and they feel bad. So if you think about justice, like what Jackie was talking about, she's acting out of love for the kid that's being the bully, because she's saying, I know that you don't really want to do this. And so I'm going to protect you from making a mistake and doing something that you don't really want to do anyway, so you don't feel bad. And I'm going to protect the innocent person over here who shouldn't be being bullied to begin with. And we're all going to have boundaries. We're all going to feel safe, secure, and trust that you're okay.
Yes, I agree with that. Another thing with the bully, a lot of times, is missing validation to feel that they are good enough or that they're powerful enough, whether it's some aspect of their life that they didn't get the positive influence as a child, or later as you get older, you're looking for that validation in your mind to think, I'm good enough. Well, maybe they're good enough because they're big and strong, and then they use that in an inappropriate way. Just like in the service, the bigger and stronger you are, that doesn't mean you're supposed to be meaner or the bigger, stronger warrior. That may mean that you're supposed to be a bigger protector for those that can't defend themselves. And that's a big thing even for our country. We have kind of been the sheriff of the world for 70 years now, trying to protect many parts of the world where they can't protect themselves.
And I think that, misuse of justice has caused a lot of trouble. I think in a lot of situations where people have taken advantage of power and misused justice, is how justice has kind of come up with a bad rap a little bit. But again, ultimately, you and I are both Christian.
Yes.
And we are, you may be listening to this in June, July, or August, but we're recording this the week of Easter. Easter of 2023, actually. So we're recording this the week of Easter. So when we think of justice, when we think of retribution and restoration, well, the greatest love of all was, God being nailed to that cross and taking, providing
paying
justice, paying the price, the ultimate price, so that we could be restored. And it's just amazing that this word kind of fell.
And he paid for sins that he never committed.
Right.
That I committed.
Right.
So
it was really a disjustice for justice, for restoration. So we could do a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
We could do a whole nother podcast on that. But, I've decided we're here to help you be better. And we have one mission, and that is your success. So we want to help you achieve those goals and dreams. We want you to be your best self. And you got to trust me when I say, without a good sense of justice, you're never going to fully be successful, because you're not going to have that peace within your heart. If you don't And this justice, one of the things we got to understand, and you mentioned it too, is it applies to ourselves. We know when we are doing something we shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm. In society,
getting away with something we shouldn't be getting away with.
And in society, as society was structured and built, our society in the United States, we structured society so that it would run efficiently, but then we came up with rules and laws. Those rules and laws provide safety, stability, and a code of, quote, justice, meaning that if you don't follow what's safe for everyone else and one person takes advantage of others in a mean way, then they will be held accountable. There will be some kind of balance, or like you said, retribution or repair. So again, it's back to balance, fairness, and safety. Safety to be your best self without fear of attack, without fear of ridicule or condemnation. And so that's what I think justice really is providing that freedom for everyone equally. So,
and it has to come from a place of love.
Yes.
It cannot be revengeful.
No.
Justice, we're not talking about revenge or, getting giving somebody the what for or whatever. It's saying this happened. It was wrong. There's a consequence to it. This is the consequence that in general has to come up. This is what's been said as the consequence of that thing. And that's what's going to happen. And sometimes, unfortunately, it is war, and there are lives. But, when you're dealing with terrorists, I don't think any of us want to have to be laying our beds worrying about terrorists, attacking our homes and attacking our country and killing 3,000 and 5,000 innocent people at one time, blowing up buildings. So
Right.
I don't think any human with our sense of morality, which we all have that code of conduct, wants somebody to get away with that.
Exactly.
Sometimes the bad guy gotta go.
Yes.
They got to go.
Yes. But I agree with you with the vengeance. If you attack somebody just seeking vengeance, you're going to come across as extremely violent and a lot of times out of control, which means even if some people that are friends to you or love you, they see your behavior, it may still scare them. Where if you do everything under control, respectful, and you follow a plan, let's say of justice or of even our code of justice when we arrest somebody or you go through the law process, it's supposed to work. The process was created to work and to hold someone accountable, and then there's consequences for their actions.
Right.
So,
but in human nature, we ruin things.
Yeah.
In our human sinful nature, we ruin it. And so then the good guys who are the guys that are supposed to be good tend to then do things that aren't good and make it, we know about that too. So there's a double side, but in general, justice for all is a good thing. And it comes from love. And, one of the things that we have to remember is our Creator, one of his biggest attributes is justice.
And it is
all about love. It is all about love. It is as a protection for us to say, no, don't walk off that cliff. Stay between the lines here. And it's a virtue. So we need to have a strong sense of justice. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. Right. Let's talk about some of the things we shared in our weekly winning resource with our members. And the very first thing we have to do if we're going to have a strong sense of justice is go inward. We have to focus on our self-awareness. We have to serve our self-justice before we can see clearly to know what's just in the other place. And I mean, do that deep heart check. Look, where do you need to serve up some justice? Where do you need to make amends and make things right?
Yeah. Am I the best dad or the best friend or the best that I can be? This could apply to a lot of us. Am I the best employee, no matter what your job is? Do I waste 20 to 30 minutes a day on the cell phone? And then you add that up at the end of the year. Well, I've wasted 60 or 80 hours. That's 2 weeks I owe somebody.
Right.
So, and again, how do you look at that and look at yourself? We're not saying to condemn yourself and beat yourself up.
No, it's out of love. It's out of self-love to be better, right?
Right. I want to improve on my behavior and be the best version of myself that I can be. So
one of the things that we talked about in the article is unintentional biases. So
mhm.
we all have a strong set of beliefs, whatever those are. We have a strong set of beliefs based on our environment, based on what's been
Experience.
instilled in us, our own personal experience. And because of that, we have some right things that we believe and some wrong things that we believe. And, I'm not saying everything we believe is wrong, and you might not have a lot of things that are wrong, but I assure you, you cannot be right in everything. It's virtually impossible. So it's like, how do we get rid of those things? I think I used the term detect and eject,
Mhm.
right? So how do we detect those unintentional biases and get them out of there, reject them, get them or eject them, I should say, get them out.
Part of that is life experience, or like our group where we talk and we get to hear the same question answered by 7 or 8 other people. You get to hear these other opinions, and a lot of times I hear people talk and I'm like, wow, I didn't look at it from that perspective. Sometimes I just need to change my perspective. Sometimes I'm too selfish and I'm thinking about what Jason wants and nobody else.
Right.
So,
well, that's the other human nature. Jason's not the only selfish one. The rest of us are too. Whether we want to admit it or not, we are
right.
selfish. Humans are born selfish. We are selfish by nature.
Mhm.
And we just are. So we have to really work in, putting on, being more like Jesus and not being selfish and being less selfish, and that self-awareness.
Mhm.
It's that selfishness that can get us in trouble when it comes to justice.
Yes. I agree.
Right?
Yes.
So selfishness is not a derivative. It doesn't come from love. So, it's a maybe a really weird kind of self-love, but it's not the
But you're
kind of love
putting
we're
your
talking about.
needs and your wants above others.
Right.
And I don't think we were really created for that. I think we were really created to love and express kindness to others, to bless others.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at how God has blessed me with certain talents or gifts, things I'm good at, if I develop those to my best potential, they're made to bless other people, not so Jason can accumulate more stuff.
Right.
Or, it's for others.
Mm-hmm.
And if we all lived by that principle, we would just be blessing each other.
Oh, it's amazing.
Constantly.
Yeah. I talk
like this
Joe
group.
Joe and I talk about this all the time. The best thing I can do for Joe is to be my best self.
Mhm.
The best thing he can do for me is to be his best self. And so it goes.
Mhm.
And so being your best self isn't so that you can shine above everybody else. Being your best self is so that you can contribute more and you can help others be their best self. You're setting an example, you're helping, right? Lead people
Yes.
down the right path. So, you got to start with yourself. And it is so important to do. I think I called it some personal housekeeping when
Mhm.
it comes to justice. And, you might find yourself saying, there's some retribution. There is some things that I need to make right. I need to make some amends. I need to get this off of my chest. I need, to clean this up so that I can have that peace that comes from justice. Justice is the cornerstone of peace. So I think that's important.
And I like the first, just being aware of where you're at and own where you're at. I'm not where I want to be at certain aspects of my life. But if I deny that I'm there because I made choices and that's where I'm at, well, now I can make choices to improve that or
Right.
work on improving that. If I deny it and try to blame it on others, I don't really take ownership, and then I can't improve.
Right. Yeah.
So you have the power within you. God's blessed you with power and a smart mind. And
you have the ability.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Blame. That's not justice. That's for sure. That's another word,
podcast.
and another podcast. All right. The other thing about justice is you got to decide what you're going to stand for, because there comes a time when you need to speak out for things that you fully believe in. So this is a good opportunity for us to talk about your business, which is Shimmin Tactical Solutions. And obviously you stand for the Second Amendment, and you have decided that is something that you stand for. And I'll just let you talk about that for a little bit, and how you help people be, with concealed carry, how to handle guns safely, and that you believe that guns save lives. Now, this is Jason's opinion, and it's
Right.
awesome.
It's my opinion.
And so we're just, because that's who Jason is, we're asking the question. So you tell us what you stand for, Jason.
So with my business, I help teach people awareness and safety of firearms, how a firearm works, and their responsibility in shooting. Now, a lot of people come to me, they've never shot or handled a gun before, or they want to know how to defend themselves or their family or loved ones. And so that's where we start. There's always a starting point, kind of the same thing. You're looking at an awareness or an assessment of where you're at and what's the goal. And so I'm very mission focused is a term that I like to use with people. So if you want to learn to defend yourself, or let's say you're a school teacher, and I've talked about offering this to local schools, if they want to bring me in, I would just do classes so that teachers would understand more about firearms and how a firearm works. Just in case somebody brings one to class and they take it away from that person, or a firearm is found, they're going to not be afraid of it or afraid to touch it. They'll know how to make it safe.
That's a good point.
Make sure that it's empty. And then, I mean, once the firearm is empty and there isn't ammunition or rounds in the gun, it's nothing more than a hammer. It's a heavy paperweight. Still hurt somebody with it, but it's not going to shoot somebody as long as you remove the ammunition. So my classes, I'm a gun expert. I've studied a lot of shooting tactics. I've studied a lot of firearms. One of my positions in the Army, I was an armorer and I was a weapons specialist. So I worked on the guns, miniguns. So I love that. It's a passion, but I used to like to shoot all the time, and kind of like what you said before, I would shine if I was good and I liked the attention. But the more I mature and also the better I get with shooting, I find that I want to share that skill and help teach others how to become better. And it's awesome to watch people shoot, even people that aren't really gun people. They come and they take a lesson, and you just watch the confidence and it's a very sharp learning curve. They usually pick up stuff really fast. I'm lucky, I'm blessed in the fact that the field I work in, most everybody is really interested. I don't have to convince them. They really come. They
come to you because they're wanting.
Yes, they want to learn the subject matter. They study. They really pay attention to my instruction, and normally they do awesome. But it doesn't just apply to shooting. Most of the things I teach them, whether it's discipline, consistency, being safe, respectful, all these, I would say, words that we work on that I label and put towards different aspects of holding a firearm and shooting, you can apply those same principles to your life, and you'll be successful no matter what you do. If you stay consistent, if you apply respect, if you go at it and you have a plan. And that's why I named my business Shimmin Tactical Solutions. Tactical means you have a set plan to achieve a certain goal. And so I wanted to have a business. That was my tactical plan. I wanted to provide a certain training scenario or a certain offering to people. Yeah. And so that's where I'm at.
One of the things that you stand for. And I guess, the question for you is, what is it that you stand for? What are those things that you stand for? And I think we have to decide. I've decided is about being firm. It is not about wishy-washy. It's not about being lukewarm.
Right.
It's the opposite. It's saying, we may have,
I've made a decision.
I'm going to stand for this. So I know what to stand up for when the time comes. So I know when I need to speak up, because that is justice. Justice is about knowing the time and the right place to, stand up for the things that you believe in. And you have to stand up for what you believe in respectfully with justice. And I stand up for the things that I believe in, and you stand up, whether it might be that you might have an opposite belief than Jason. But that doesn't mean that you can't both stand up for what you believe in respectfully. And that brings us to the third thing, which is to practice tolerance. Okay, so this is interesting. So we know that the meaning of tolerance has significantly changed in our society. But I looked up the definition. Like, what does the Webster Dictionary say about the word tolerance? And by definition, it is the willingness to endure feelings, habits, or beliefs that are different than your own. Now,
bingo.
endure, let's just think about that word for a second. Because when I think of endure, I think enduring a workout, enduring something that's driving me crazy. I'm enduring a long car ride, like things that
you're tolerating something that maybe isn't enjoyable to you.
Yeah. To get maybe something that I want better, so like driving to Florida.
Right.
I'm tolerating that long distance drive because I want to get to the beach. So enduring. So if you think about that, it's the definition is the willingness to endure feelings, habits, or beliefs that are different different than your own. Okay. Not that your own, but different than your own. And I think we got to just remember that. So with that said, tolerance is not agreement.
No.
You cannot say I'm not tolerant because I disagree with you. That's not a definition of tolerance. You are using tolerance out of context.
Right. Again, this goes back to, this is the opposite of selfishness. Really, if you're tolerant of something and you're enduring, you're sacrificing. You're sacrificing one of the most important things in the world, which is time. Your time is extremely valuable, no matter what you do for a living. And once you realize that, do I want to sacrifice my time for this? Or like you said, for the outcome, will I sacrifice an 18-hour ride in the car so that I can get to the beach and enjoy that? And hopefully you're there for more than one day.
Yeah. Or sacrifice that somebody that I love dearly, could be a family member, right? Somebody that I love dearly believes something totally different than I do. So am I going to sacrifice zipping it so that I can see them or spend time with them because I love them? And the one thing that we disagree on has to just be put to the side.
Right. Discuss that another time.
Yes. So I love this. So practicing tolerance does not mean you must agree with someone. Let's be clear about that. In fact, it's the opposite. You're agreeing to disagree. You're saying you're being tolerant of me and my beliefs, and I'm being tolerant of you and your beliefs for a better outcome. It simply means for the sake of justice, kindness, and love. So we're tolerating for the sake of the goodness for all, because otherwise, I mean, let's face it, we live in a divided country. We would all be, we could all break out in a war against each other right now because we all have such different agreements.
What are you going to focus on?
So it's for the sake of our peaceful nation that tolerance is a must, and it is a two-way street.
Yes.
If I'm going to be tolerant of you, you have to be tolerant of me in order for us to.
You have to have mutual respect. If you don't have mutual respect, then it's probably going to lead to a conflict and violence.
Right.
And that's unfortunately where we're kind of at with our parties and our government and that right now. It's like they don't even have respect to say, let's stop the name calling and blaming. Let's just sit down and talk about what's best for the nation.
Right.
And the people in the nation.
Well, talk about justice in the wrong hands. Talk about power.
Right.
And, and I have to say this because I just have to. It's like divide and conquer. And if we aren't smart enough as citizens to see that the ultimate goal is division, and because if we are divided as citizens, then we can be conquered.
Right.
And together we stand, united we stand, divided we fall. And if we don't clearly see that and start to practice put true, genuine tolerance to practice, true, genuine justice with love behind it, and get to something mutual understanding and stop that, what you just said, name calling, and it's both parties.
Right.
This is both. We're going to be in trouble.
Right.
I really believe
we're seeing that.
We're
we
seeing
see that now.
We're seeing that now.
And we see that doesn't work. So instead of focusing on that, I try to tell friends, focus on your life, who you affect and who you have interaction with every day.
Yes.
That's what you can affect. Be a positive influence and treat others Yeah, there you go. Get involved.
And the last thing
I don't want to steal your.
Yeah, no, you're not. It's rolling right in. The last thing you can do, to ensure that you have a strong sense of justice is to get involved.
Right.
So if something is really bothering you that you stand for, you got to get involved in a way. And there's, contribution is one of the 10 pieces of the puzzle for success. So where can you contribute? You can, there are many ways you can get involved with volunteering. You can support a cause that you believe in financially. I do that a lot. If I'm not going to run for things, and I'm not, I have to focus on what I can do. And it's not my calling to be in politics. That is not my calling. And so I'm not going to pretend like it is. I'm not going to pretend I know all about something that I don't. But I can find somebody that stands for the things that I believe in and support that.
Right.
I can vote.
Vote with your dollars.
I voted.
Yes,
I voted today. So you can vote.
Right.
Get involved, right?
Volunteer. Help in the areas that you see where there's weakness or trouble or this isn't working correctly or,
Be a good neighbor.
Right.
Just because you don't agree with your neighbor doesn't mean you can't be a good neighbor, right? You might not
and ask questions.
Ask questions. Yeah, because usually disagreements are just simply misunderstandings. It's a lack of knowledge. It is a lack of knowledge. Show up for local events. I've learned that. I've went to some city council meetings. Boy, those are interesting. So that's how I know I don't want to do that.
You don't want to get involved in that.
But it's interesting to show up so that I can understand what's happening. You can just spread the word. You can simply spread the word, and getting involved. But I think you got to be a part of something. If you get involved, you can make an impact. You can be a difference maker. But if you're just sitting on the sidelines going, let them just do whatever they're going to do, and I don't really care.
You got to get involved. Even with my line of work, getting involved, a lot of people think, oh, you just want to shoot with everybody. No, it's a lot more involved than that. I mean, we oftentimes are at the range for several hours and have a lot of deep conversation. Because when you come to me and you say, oh, I want to get my concealed carry license, can you teach me that? Yes. So you're wanting to carry a firearm to protect yourself or your loved ones, but that firearm has the ability to end human life. So now I like to talk to people and ask them about, when your life ends as a human, which is very easy, we're one of the weakest creatures on the planet. Where does life end or begin for you? Do you know the Lord? Do you believe that there is life after your body stops working here on the planet? And so it's an opportunity to talk about what people believe and to get involved, and tolerance. A lot of times there are questions that, people, if you're not raised in the church, I was lucky I was raised in the church, went to a private grade school, Christian grade school. But if they don't have that knowledge, you're trying to share, not to push my beliefs on them. I just want to give them the option or let them see why I have confidence in this area or why I'm able to behave this way or believe this way. It's, why do I believe in justice?
An opportunity to speak up for, going back to what the page I flipped over here, wherever it went. That's not it. Maybe I tucked it under. Here we go.
There it is.
Deciding what you stand for and speaking up for some of those things that you stand for, and feeling safe to be able to say, no, I don't agree with that. Or, I love you, Jason, but I don't agree with what you might be saying or you're saying to me. I have a respect for you, but in that area, we got to agree to disagree, but we can have that conversation. And I think that we can no longer do that. I mean, if you I have friends, mutual friends, who, after what we've been through since 2020, and we won't rehash all that, we all know what we've been through.
Right.
And after all that we've been through since 2020, don't speak to each other. I'm talking best friends that traveled together. Like that they were best friends, and now they no longer speak to each other, can't stand each other. What? Because here's
intolerance.
Why. Lack of tolerance, right? It's you don't agree with me, you don't think I'm right, you're stupid, you're wrong. It's that, and that is just that's bad. That's
Right.
just not what we want to do. And it's not going to help us achieve our goals and dreams. And that's what we're here for, which is why we want you to have a strong sense of justice. And I said this before, but it is an attribute of our Creator.
Mhm.
In fact, I wrote this down last night in my Bible study, that God has perfect justice. And he
Amen.
really is the only one that has perfect justice.
Mhm.
His justice is perfect, and his justice is out of love. And his justice has retribution, but it also has restoration.
Right. And it's fair.
It's fair, and we know it. Deep inside, we know that when it's kind of like getting caught speeding down the highway. We get
Guilty.
upset. Oh, I talk about guilty. I've had more tickets than the law allows. When I was in my 20s, I almost lost my driver's license, and we won't talk about that. But anyway, I definitely use cruise control now. I've learned to use cruise control. But the point is you're guilty.
Mhm.
And you're just mad because you've been caught. But
and now you're going to pay whether you lose time or money or both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's frustrating, but there's
But
no
it's
one to
not
blame but yourself.
That's right. But we got to come back to the law officer who's writing the ticket.
Mhm.
If his heart's in the right place, and most are,
Mhm.
there's always exceptions to the rule. But if their heart's in the right place, it's not about wishing harm on me. He's not going, ha, 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 or she is not
Mhm.
going, ha, 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 you just got a ticket. They're saying, I need to write you this ticket because if you continue to drive like that, you're going to harm yourself or
Mhm.
harm someone else, which is even worse because then you're harming an innocent person. They're not seeking revenge. They're not revengefully writing you this ticket out of revenge. They're not just taking the matters into their own hands. They're
Right.
saying, you broke the law. The consequence is a speeding ticket.
Mhm.
And I am the law enforcer. I
Right.
am the
I'm the
enforcer of
consequence.
justice. So I'm going to write this ticket so that hopefully it prevents you from doing something worse down the road. And that
Yes.
is justice.
Mhm. That
Where
is
it's
justice.
love for the person that could be harming themselves or someone else, and love for the innocent person that could be in that,
in the way.
in the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
that gets hit. But
So remember, justice is love, and it's retribution and restoration.
and it's fair.
And it's fair and just. Okay. And I want to end on this quote. I love it. It's a Martin Luther quote, and it just rang so true. And
I loved that
I
quote.
do too. I just love it so much. It says, peace is more important than all justice. And peace was not made for the sake of justice, but justice for the sake of peace.
Mhm.
With justice, there is peace.
Amen.
We can have peace with ourselves, and we can have peace in the world with the right type of justice. And that's what it's about. Hey,
Great.
you got stuff happening. So if you want to reach out to Jason, if you're interested in learning more about firearm safety, if you're interested in getting your license to have a concealed carry, if you have monthly meetings for Gun Save Lives,
Mhm.
which is the first Thursday night of every month out
Yes,
at
ma'am.
Barracks Cater Inn.
Yep, on
What-
Pioneer Park.
What time does that start?
5:30 is the dinner, and the meeting starts at 7.
Yeah, so 5:30, meeting starts at 7. Gun Save Lives. So maybe you want more information about why they think that. I don't know. You could just be curious. If you live in the Peoria, Illinois area, it's on the first Thursday nights out at Barracks Cater Inn.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we didn't get to talk about your whole security side of things, so we'll have to bring you on another show at another point. But obviously, you are a person with a great sense of justice
Yes, ma'am.
and a good fit for this interview today. So I appreciate
thank
you
you.
being here.
Thank you for having me. It was
I
fun.
appreciate your service, and I'm excited for working with you through I've Decided and what we can do to help change lives and help people be better.
Me too.
Awesome.
It's good.
Yes. All right. You guys make it great, and we'll see you next week.